Morning, everyone. Right. First question: any estates and facilities professionals in the audience?
You're safe.
I'm safe. Two things. One, I'm safe. Two, it tells its own story, I guess. How relevant is the estate to infection control? Hopefully, by the end of this short section, I'll convince you that it is. Institute of Healthcare Engineering and Estate Management, iMM. Anyone heard of it? No? 1,600 members. We represent the estates and facilities professionals in healthcare, large NHS membership, and also private sector. Would it surprise you to know that the estate is the third largest expenditure in the NHS? After staff and pharmaceuticals comes the buildings that you all take for granted. So we are significant if we do hide our light under a bushel. So, areas to be covered, hopefully. Innovation in building design, opportunities when refurbishing the estate, and I'll come to the links there. The procurement opportunities that are out there. There is a model called the NHS Premises Assurance Model. I'm suspecting you may not have heard of that either, but you will by the end of my session. And the sharing of best practice. So, innovation in building design. The PFI new build boom is over for now. There are one or two schemes running through, but what lessons do we need to learn? Equally, lift schemes. If any of you are in the community, you'll have seen lift schemes. Hope you'll appreciate that actually it has delivered an enhanced patient environment. We have modernised the estate. There's a contention about the finances of it all. I am not an accountant, I am not going to go there, but as an estates professional, it is welcoming to see that investment in that third largest expenditure in the NHS. So what has been achieved, I'll go through in a little while, but there's another organisation called HCAIs, which is the Commission for Architecture in the Built Environment, another term you may not have been familiar with before today. Hopefully one or two of these will stick, and you might just pick to these later. They're now part of the Design Council, and they get engaged in all sorts of design on behalf of the healthcare and the clinical environments. Whether they've been fully successful, I am not going to judge. But a couple of successes I would suggest. Pembury Hospital, it's the first. It's the first single accommodation new build acute healthcare facility in the UK. It's taken 10 years of PFI to get there, but we've finally got there. Whether single bed accommodation is the panacea for all infection ills is a different question. Certainly the evidence suggests that the old Nightingale ward is not conducive to minimising your infection rates. Whether it does it cost effectively, time will tell. Politicians will no doubt decide, and certainly accountants will. But nonetheless, there's a shining example of what can be achieved. Liverpool Children's Hospital, possibly. This could still be a pipe dream. This is in the final stages of its PFI negotiations. If successful, it will be constructed by 2017. Quite an innovative design, I hope you'll agree. The intention is to take the hospital, which is a children's hospital, into the play and the park area. Hence the contoured roofs with the sedum and grass tops. From a parent's perspective, I'm kind of worried that that's not fenced off and we'll have kids running up and down on the roof, but never mind. But HCAIs are involved with this, and they are involved in the whole infection control. It could be single accommodation, more likely to be single, double and 4-bed accommodation, because obviously kids do thrive on company. So, what do we need to learn? Contentious now. Do we have too many of these? From my experience, I would say yes. I've been involved in quite a few new build PFIs. Health Facilities Note 30 came out. That's how sad I am, but never mind. And there were rashes of these put in. Behind that panel there is a number of pipework configurations. There are thermostatic mixing valves, there are flexi hoses. All those we now know, having recently found out, that there's an infection risk with all of that. That leads to Legionella and Legionnaire's disease. That leads to Pseudomonas aeruginosa and the likes, C. diff. We're all learning about these. Was it foreseeable? Probably not. But at the time, in the 90s, early 2000s, it was felt that hand washing was the route to infection control. So if you want to get people to wash their hands, put sinks in. Single bed accommodation has a sink in the single bed. It also has a sink in the ensuite, along with a shower and a toilet, and sometimes a bidet, which is fine, except if the patient in the bed is bedridden and is in there for some time, the shower, the sink, probably the toilet, never get used. That's a problem in itself. Now, as estates, there are things we can do. We can put flushing routines in, assuming we can access those areas. But as clinical it worked this morning. As clinical professionals, you need to be aware of these risks and engaging with us and letting us know so we can do something about it. I would also suggest that the rise of the wonderful alcohol gel is the demise of the sinks. These have gone up, and quite rightly so, like a rash, but unfortunately nobody's gone back and taken the sinks out. It is complicated, I accept that. It is, do you take something out? Well, no, we never get round to doing that, but it is that continuous loop of improvement that we need to get round. So, refurbishment opportunities. So the new build era is probably dwindling and possibly extinct for now. But we do have high levels of backlog maintenance. I think current estimates suggest £60 billion of investment required to bring our healthcare estate up to scratch. I guess the first question is, do we actually need all of that estate? And I'm not going to go there today. So assume we do, we have to invest in it and improve it. It needs investment. It also needs collaborative working. The question I would have is, where does that collaborative working come from? It has to come from within the professions. You have to engage with your estates and facilities departments. You have to engage with the designers and commissioners of these facilities. If you don't know who your estates department are, or your director of estates and facilities, the chances are you won't find them in the boardroom, sadly, today, because they don't seem to get a voice at that level. As a rule of thumb, if you're on a large acute estate, look for the boiler house chimney, and that's typically where you'll find the estates department, usually tucked away in one corner. Occasionally you will see them along the corridors, but they usually disappear and beetle off into the areas that you never see. The 10% of the estate that's the plant rooms and the duct work and the behind the scenes piece. But actually, if you do engage with them, most will engage. I won't say all. I do have to kick some of my colleagues kicking and streaming into engagement with people. But we are there, and we do know quite a bit about the estate that you operate in. We do have an appreciation of some of the estate issues that you have. We do need research and sharing of knowledge. The current research obviously is around the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Sadly, it's taking a while, but it's coming. Guidance is coming, apparently, possibly in March, not sure. But we need to share the knowledge, and the fragmented NHS is not well placed to do that. So potentially the professional institutes and days like today, that's what that's about. So, refurbishment. Now there's a possible vision. That looks very expensive, doesn't it? If you were in the retail market, which unfortunately healthcare we don't measure it, that would actually be the most cost-effective solution for refurbishing a ward. Because that's all modular, that's all prefabricated. That cuts down refurbishment time by around 60%. You think about that if you're Marks and Spencer's. Availability is everything. A few key points on this one. This is courtesy of Cundall. And that's not an advert for them, but they've done the work, so they should get the credit. Does the laser pointer work? It does.
It did.
I'll stick to my microphone, although my wife would say you can hear me anywhere. All of this is modular, prefabricated. All smooth lines, easy clean, laminated, perfect, beautiful stuff. There are no shelves, there are no nooks, there are no crannies that you can't get to. There's an integrated lighting system there which gives a wall of light for the patient, so no hot spots. Brilliant stuff. But if you did that on a case-by-case basis on fit-out, it would look expensive. However, on whole life costs, it will work out cheaper. And on fit-out time, it will work out far cheaper. If we have all of this estate to refurbish, and there's less of it going to be available, this could well be the future. It comes in flat pack, a bit like IKEA. You can even see at the top there, there's a recessed curtain track. Now they've left the curtains out because obviously that doesn't go well with the design, but nonetheless, it's there. Everything that you need is there. Within there, there's a patient locker, there's a drugs cupboard, there's all the medical supplies that you require, even a bin as well. All where you need it and where you want it to be. The other point I would also make, there's not a sink in sight. So, procurement opportunities. The infection agenda is high on patients' minds. I think if you watch the television and the adverts, I think there's even an automatic motorised soap dispenser you can buy on the high street now. I would have to question why you have to avoid touching the top of a soap dispenser when the next thing you're going to do is use it to wash your hands. But the marketing's there and it's there, it's in people's heads. I recently had to visit a private healthcare facility, not as a patient thankfully, but I was sat in the waiting room waiting for an appointment with somebody who worked there, and there was a radiator cover and a big sticker. This radiator cover has been treated with a microbial coating for infection control purposes. And you kind of think, okay, they've got their act together, so why aren't we doing that in the NHS, would be the question. So, wrong pointer. A few things. The manufacturers are responding to all of this. That, for those of you who might not work out what it is a humble cylinder holder. But it's a world's first. It's the first one that's been designed with infection control in mind, all smooth, all cleanable, all wipeable with the standard cloth, and it's also got a microbial coating associated with it. That's a British manufacturer, I'm pleased to say, and they've actually just been awarded a Queen's Award for Enterprise for this product. I would also ask, why has it taken so long to get to that? But there we are. There's the hydrogen peroxide misting systems. That's in a clean room for a pharmaceutical manufacturing, but you can actually use that now in patient areas. You can use it in ambulances. I work within G4S. We operate patient transport services. And sometimes some of the ambulances that you step on, you kind of think, I wouldn't carry rubbish around in this because it looks really grotty. Actually, we should be keeping it clean because that's the first point of contact for some of our acute patients. Another example, SteriShield Diamond Matte. This has silver in the coating. This cuts down the potential transmission of infections from 24 hours life to around 6 hours life. It's about 3 pence a litre more expensive. Actually, why isn't that used in every healthcare facility? It's got all the full range of colours. You know, from magnolia to magnolia, and then magnolia again. But no, it does have all the colours. It's there. There are other competitors like that. In fact, I think that's even pure brilliant white if you really want it. Nurse call handsets. Surely that's the one thing that every patient touches. We don't swap the nurse call out between patients, do we? But that one's got an antimicrobial additive. They're available. They are slightly more expensive at the purchase stage, and I'm talking pennies, possibly a pound or two. But if I say that a handset's typically around £180, a £3 premium, one infection prevented. PAL produce 2 forms of filter. If you've got susceptible patients, you might want to put these on proactively. However, there is a cost. If you have elevated bacterial counts in your water system, put them on anyway, because it means you can maintain your showers. They aren't particularly pretty, shall we say, but they're effective. 99% effective. Burns units are using them a lot, and immunocompromised areas. The mixer valve. I talked about the sink and all the valves and pipework behind. That doesn't have to happen. That tap there has all the mixing capability in the head. There is no dead leg. The dead leg is the length of the spout of the tap. It's also low surface temperature, so you can't burn your patients either, which has always been a problem in the past. Good old Mr. Dyson, the Bladeless Fan. How many times do you walk into a healthcare facility, particularly in the summer, and you see that great pedestal fan and the stuff hanging off it, and then they turn it on and it blows all over the ward? Bladeless, that can be cleaned very, very easily. Yes, they're £100 a pop, but actually energy efficient as well. And now a gratuitous advert. That's our health estate journal, 10 times a year, but on the cover this time That's an automatic tap, it's a sensor tap, but added to that you can actually adjust the temperature outlet without touching the tap. The jury's out as to whether the sensor taps work, because some of the setups don't quite happen, and the belief at the moment, still to be proven, is that the Pseudomonas aeruginosa issues are taken by people actually touching the outlet because they're trying to wave the hand under to get it to work. You know that, "Ooh, where am I? I'm here." These have been refined so it's easier to do. There's still a little bit of work to do there, I guess. So, NHS Premises Assurance Model. Nobody's heard of it, I'm guessing. It's been around since 2010. It was first designed to raise the strategic awareness of the estate and to share best practice. And it was designed to take the estate out of the estates department and up to the board. The original return had 117 questions. Now it has 79 questions. It was aimed at the acute sector to start with. Recent developments have brought in mental health and the community sectors, and they were originally looking at 3 separate models for those. Thankfully, common sense has prevailed, and they've worked out that healthcare estate is very common across the piece. They've now rationalised it down to 79 questions, of which 28 are related to safety, and a good number of those are infection related. If you don't know about it, ask your estates department about it. Ask to get involved. Here's the thing, 2 sections to it. One's empirical, that's all data and use of the estate. The other one are the 79 questions that are all self-assessment questions. Are the estates department best placed to answer those questions? The cynic in me says probably not. Get involved, get in there. It is designed to share best practice across the NHS estate. The returns will be distributed anonymously. They are looking for an online system, but at the moment it's in spreadsheet form. And you can see who's doing well in these areas, or go and find out who they are anonymously. I'm not quite sure how that works, but my NHS colleagues tell me that's how it goes. And find out what they're doing well. So you can share the best practice, because unfortunately days like today are fairly rare these days in our austere times. So you can go proactively looking for it. So that draws me to the importance of sharing best practice. Hopefully I'm preaching to the converted. But without sharing best practice, we are definitely all alone. Conferences and seminars, yeah, when you can get to them. Journals and trade press, and please don't overlook the estates trade press. I know it sounds like it's all engineering and techie, but we do some quite reasonable articles that are not necessarily engineering. If you've got insomnia, they're a great cure if you really do have a problem there. But we do have international journal items. I think it's Greece that they're trialling copper drip stands at the moment and doing a trial on that and investigation, because the natural materials are seen as excellent for infection control. The professional institutes, you don't have to be a member of iHCAIs to go on the website, and you should find a member somewhere in your estates department. Link in with them, get hold of the estates journal. There's the online version as well. There's CAIB. If you do have the opportunity to build new facilities, tie in with CAIB. I think there is a charge to it now because of the new measures, but they can bring value. There's research, and obviously there's collaboration. And I guess I would implore you all, please, seek out your estates and facilities team. Go buttonhole them before they disappear into the boiler house, and have a chat to them. I think you'll find it illuminating, because one thing that is ever present, healthcare will always be delivered in some form of estate. Even if you go back to the days of MASH, for anyone that remembers it, there was a healthcare estate of form, albeit it was tents. I don't think we're quite there in the NHS yet, hopefully not. And hopefully with the PFI and lift schemes, you've seen what the future can look like, and hopefully we get back to that rebuild and refurbishment phase. And that closes me. Is that about time?
That's great. Thank you very much, Greg. And that gives us